each and every day. In terms of prosecution, I think that the goal is always to take the dangerous individuals and get them out of the community, get them in the Department of Corrections for the safety of the members of this community, and then to take those individuals that perhaps made a mistake. My first district attorney that I worked for, Gus Sandstrom in Pueblo, told me on day one of the job, he said the key to this job is to sort out whether or not he said there's two types of people you see with any prosecution case. A criminal and a good person that made a bad mistake. Sometimes that can be a really bad mistake. He said the trick to being a good prosecutor is to sort out which of those two individuals you're dealing with and then handle them accordingly. The criminals, and the ones that represent a danger to the community, need to go to prison. The good people that made a mistake need some sort of rehabilitative type sentence. That can be a variety of different types of sentences, probationary, incarceration, probation, or other measures that are available to the district attorney, and then treat them accordingly to get them back on track, back out into this community, and a good person, and hopefully that won't make any more bad mistakes. So that would be the policy of the district attorney's office while I was the district attorney, while I was, and while I will be the district attorney.
Okay, final question for county commissioners, HD 60 and HD 47. We'll start with county commissioners. House Bill 1164 was signed into law in 2019. Essentially, this law has made Colorado a sanctuary state. What effect will this have on Fremont County? And Captain.
I told Dwayne he should take this one because he needs to take a victory lap on this one. What impact it will have, the fact of the matter is we have a great sheriff. We have a great county commission and the city council, by the way, also, that passed resolutions that declared us sanctuaries from such assaults. And you know, I think that right there, having the leadership in place that will stand up for our Second Amendment rights is critical. And I don't think you'll find anyone up here on this stage, honestly, that would look for ways to put any dents in that. We will all stand up for it and stand against any unenforceable state statute that seeks to attack our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. And I think having that leadership in place is critical. How it will affect us, to the question, I think minimally, because we have that leadership in place, and we will continue to have that leadership in place that will continue to stand for each and every one of us and our right to keep and bear arms.
Jim.
I guess the million-dollar question is, how are you going to violate the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the 14th Amendment of our Constitution? Without due process, at the very minimum, without due process, none of us should be subject to what this red flag law is intended to do, and I absolutely would never support that. I wouldn't want to say I got an A+ rating with the NRA, which includes the fact that we will absolutely oppose this red flag bill.
So, the Constitution guarantees rights for all of us, whether it's the 2nd, 4th, 14th, 15th, 16th, what other constitutional amendment did that violate? We do have a very good law enforcement in the county who are like-minded, I guess I should say. And when we took an oath to defend and stand by the Constitution of the United States and Colorado. Illegal laws, which is what some of these laws are that they're passing, I believe, will be contested in court eventually. Some of those are going to be long periods of being in court, I believe. But it is something that it's worth fighting for, because those amendments to constitutional rights are something that we've lived for by hundreds of years, and we're going to continue to live by. So the effect here is going to be minimal, just because of the law enforcement we have in place.
Okay, Ron Hanks.
Okay, I'm gonna go kind of Socrates on you here. What are we talking about? Are we talking sanctuary state as in immigration? Are we talking NRA and gun rights?
We're talking about where our legislature made it illegal for law enforcement to contact ICE when they have an illegal immigrant in their custody.
Okay, got it. And I think that was 1124, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be mistaken on that. Let's talk.
1164, I believe.
Okay, okay. With regard to ICE, immigration, sanctuary state, the role I would play as a representative in the state government would be to reach out to the federal government and say, you know, we got a problem here. There's going to be a lot of people that will be doing that, but we definitely want to pool our voices. We, you know, William Barr, the U.S. Attorney General, is starting to fight this issue of sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. So at this point, my role, as I see it, would be to advise and provide information. I'm certainly opposed to the idea of a sanctuary immigration state. I think it's a hideous distortion of our freedoms, our liberties, and our personal status within the government. We should not be in a lower status or have to accept legislation that brings an illegal immigrant to the same status as an honest immigrant or an American citizen.
Just a comment here. And I apologize to our county commissioner candidates for maybe it wasn't clear what I was talking about, but I really liked your answers anyways. Rob Disney.
Anytime I hear sanctuary, with the exception of the Second Amendment sanctuaries that have begun springing up where municipalities are willing to say, or their sheriffs say, we will absolutely support your Second Amendment right to carry and own, and they shall not be infringed upon. With that exception, every time I hear sanctuary, they're talking about breaking federal laws. They're talking about cases where the Constitution says one thing, federal government says one thing, and then the state comes in and says something different. So essentially the state is offering the opportunity for people who do not believe in that particular statute or that particular law to break that law and to allow their municipalities to break that law. I'm absolutely against any sanctuary condition that breaks the Constitution or federal law.
All right, Ron Carter.
Well, like the rest of the people on this platform, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, they're violating the federal law, and there's no wrong. But I have noticed that we haven't turned, anybody free yet, and I've read the paper, thank goodness. But if they've committed a crime, why are you letting them go free just because they're, illegal immigrant? They're here illegally. They're just letting them go, and I think that's wrong. If they want to let them go or whatever, well, you know what? Send them back to California. Let them go there. Let them go to their sanctuary state where they're all happy with it, but not in my state of Colorado. I'm tired of this stuff. People making laws and values that are not the majority of us. It is wrong in every sense of the way. Most legal immigrants hate the same fact of the illegals coming in here doing this. They're doing it the right way, they're doing it the proper way, and they're not committing crimes. And they see people coming across the border doing it wrong, and they're getting appalled by it. I would never ever support, sanctuary cities for a state.
Okay. Oh, Stephanie.
ordinances just allowed for illegal immigrants not to have to carry a driver's license. And so if they get pulled over and they don't have a license, then they're released. But if the citizens of Massachusetts or any other state get pulled over and don't have that same driver's license, well then of course they are fined or prosecuted for that violation. It's almost as if we live in a twilight zone, that the people of this country have been resigned to the place of second-class citizens for individuals who aren't citizens and who have shown a flagrant disregard for our ways and our laws. Immigration is very near and dear to my heart. My grandmother was a first-generation immigrant from Germany after World War II. I myself was an immigrant to 2 countries and understand the hoops that have to be jumped through in order to get access to another land. I don't see why we should make any concessions to individuals who fail to uphold our law. The question asks what impact I could see that having here in Fremont County. And the biggest impact I can see is that it violates the rule of law. It undermines the rule of law. And so we give this impression to our people, to our citizens, to our kids, that law doesn't matter. And as long as you are loud enough, as long as you are emotionally driven enough in terms of you have beautifully emotive stories, then the law doesn't apply to you, or we wouldn't have to make it apply to you. And that's untenable. What would our society look like if we didn't have law? What would it look like if we didn't have the DA's office or the legislature? Do we really want to live in a society where law doesn't matter? I assume that if you're here, you don't want to live in that society because you wouldn't be spending your Saturday afternoon talking about who to put into positions of lawmaking authority or law enforcing authority. But we do need to ask that question to our fellow neighbors. Do we want to live in a place where the law doesn't matter? Because if we do, then let's just dispense with this formality. We can all go have some coffee and dessert, and we can keep the money that we spend for the state to run the state in our own pockets. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's time for everyone to have their closing remarks, and we're going to start at the other end of the table. So Ron Hanks.
Ron Harper.
Ron, sorry, there's so many R's here. And you get 3 minutes each.
Thank you. It was posed to me, why am I running? You know, I know well, I'm Ron Harper, I live in House District 47, why shouldn't I run? Well, then I thought about a little bit longer. Well, I served in the military. I served my nation. I spent 28 years in prison working, not living. And I served my state. So I said, well, I've been retired now a couple of years, and that usually happens. Everybody out here who's been retired goes on. I got the 2-year boredom out of myself, you know, did all my little pet projects. It's time to do something with my life. So why not represent House District 47? So I'm used to representing people. People are what matter. I heard once before that, well, you live in Pueblo West. What are you going to do for us here in Canyon and Penrose? You're so far away. Well, I'm actually only 20 minutes away. There's people in Fremont County that live further away to this church than I do, okay? So yes, I can be here quick. And one of the things is water. Water is different in all 3 counties. One of the biggest things water is here in this town is tourism, am I correct? Without a good water flow, you're not going to have the rafts go down the river. Without the rafts going down the river, you're not having people come in and spending money and your sales tax go down. Okay? That's just a small portion of it, but that's part of your water concern. Well, Pueblo's water concern is a little different. We've got Colorado Springs where I grew up. What do? They dump their sludge down the Fountain River. And if you've ever been down there by Rendon Field and you see where the Arkansas and the Fountain merge together, you can see 2 different rivers. I call one a river, one mud pond. But they have a different issue. And they also have an issue with the dam. If it starts getting too full, they got to release water. Now, the water issues out in Otero County are a little bit different. more agriculture than anybody else, and a little more cattle. I'm not saying there's not one here, but their rights have been, taken away. Their water rights, and they're losing a lot. And what's happening is 10% of the water down the western slope is going this way. And what people may not have known is this, and I didn't know this. Colorado is the only state in the nation where no water flows into our state. Our water all flows out. It does not flow in. So everybody gets our water. And we have to protect it. We have to somehow protect it. Denver wants 10% more coming out of our water. They don't deserve it. I'm sorry. They need to stop their sprawl. So my name is Ron Parker. I'm running for House District 47. I do have your concerns in my heart, and I will be here for anybody who calls. I will come to any of them you want me to.
Again, my name is Tom Doan. I'm running for District Attorney. I told you in the opening statement that I think the District Attorney ought to know what they're doing in a court of law. You may recall it was a triple homicide over here by the hospital. I personally handled that case, litigated that case. That individual is now serving life without parole, plus hundreds of years in the Department of Corrections. There was a DUI death somewhat recently just east of town by Home Depot. I personally litigated that case in Fremont District Court, and that individual is now serving a prison sentence. A man was handcuffed to a tree and executed just outside of Cotopaxi about 8 years ago. I tried that case in Fremont County District Court. One individual serving life without parole, the other two 64 years and 58 years in the Department of Corrections. There was a shotgun murder in Florence when I first came to town in 2006 over 3 video games. I personally tried that case in court. That individual is serving a long DOC sentence. There was an attempted sex assault in Tunnel Drive of a young teenage girl who was just out enjoying a walk with her parents on Tunnel Drive here in Fremont County. I tried that case, and he is serving an indeterminate sentence in the Department of Corrections. You may recall many years ago, the bicycle bandit was riding around in Washington Elementary and molested a young girl on the playground of Washington Elementary. I personally litigated that case, and he is serving an indeterminate sentence in the Department of Corrections. There was somewhat recently a Fremont County sheriff detective, that was stealing from a homicide scene. I personally litigated that case, and he is serving a sentence in the Department of Corrections. I handled those cases personally in Fremont County District Court. There was also a case, which you may recall somewhat recently, in which several high school students here in Taney City High School were sexting each other, sending naked pictures of each other, of themselves to each other. I stood in front of no fewer than a half-dozen television cameras, looked in those cameras and assured the community that we would do the right thing in that case. We took our time, we looked at the case, we made sure there wasn't something more nefarious going on. I personally handled that case, and guess what we did? Nothing. We didn't file criminal charges. We didn't file sex offender charges against those kids. Why? Because it was the right thing to do for this community. How did I know that? Because I grew up here. Because I have 18 years of prosecution experience doing the right thing in individual cases. That is the experience and the decision-making that I will bring again to the District Attorney's Office in 2020. Tom Ledoux for District Attorney. I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Robert Disney, and I want to be your candidate for HD 60. I want to be your representative for HD 60. I want to have the opportunity to serve and to continue in the leadership capacity that I gained over 21 years of military service. I have a proven ability to lead. I have a proven ability to serve. I have a proven ability to be resilient and to persevere in the face of great suffering and hard times. I believe firmly that urban politics have absolutely no place in rural Colorado. We have a saying in the military that's, "I've got your six." What "I've got your six" means is that I have the ability to watch your back so that you can go about your day or go about your mission. Well, in this case, I want you to be able to go about your jobs and go about your lives and live the wonderful life we have here in rural Colorado in House District 60 with the knowledge that Rob Disney's got your six, that I have your back. I'm Robert Disney, candidate for HD 60, and I need your vote. Thank you for your time today.
are people out there who need us to advocate for them. They have a lot going on, they're working a couple jobs, have kids, have elderly parents that they're tending to, have a whole host of things that they have to put their attention to right now that are higher priorities in their mind. And yet we know, sitting in this room, that the way things are today are not the way things were 5 years ago. And they're surely not the way things were 20 years ago. And many of us, I'm sure, would say that they're not for the better. That we have seen the soul of our nation slowly stolen from us, to where our patriotic language no longer finds hearing. When we speak to individuals, it's often as though we're speaking past each other, because that common understanding of what it means to be an American, and, dare I say, as a native Coloradan, a Coloradan, is gone, or is fleeing away more and more. And so my desire is to go out and to engage with individuals just like I did last time, door to door, persuading them that those values, those principles, those ideas that our country was founded on, our state was founded on, still work and still bring about thriving environments for all of us to live an abundant life. I want to do that. I want to help people understand the importance of politics, because so often people my age say, I'm not into politics. And my response is, well, politics is into you, because it's getting into more and more of your life, and it's making decisions for you as a parent, as a business owner, as an employee, as a person. And so I would very much like the honor of representing you and all of them in our state house, and fighting for the resurgence, the renewal of what I genuinely believe is a beautiful experiment that brings true life. Thank you.
All right, let's close this out. I'm Ron Hanks. I'm running for HD 60. I gave you my background, 32 years in the military, active reserve, enlisted commission. I want to tell you now why I'm doing this. I had the blessing of joining the service out of high school under Ronald Reagan. I followed Reagan even before he became president, when he ran against Gerald Ford, ultimately lost the nomination for Ford in '76. But Reagan's voice resonated even when I was 10. And the honor of joining the service and working with so many great people has moved me. I'm not running now for ego. I don't need the job. I don't need the money. I'm running now because I have an internal fear that this country is starting to falter. And at the end of my days, I want this country to be as good as it was at the beginning of my days. And I feel like we're losing that, and my option now is to run for office. I have the time, and I believe my positions hold some weight and merit in the 4 counties of House District 60, and let me run through those. I am pro-gun, meaning I am a member of the NRA. I believe in repealing the red flag laws. I believe in minimizing the intrusion of the background checks that we fall under every single time we buy a gun, whether it's 20 minutes after the last one. We need to be working on this. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-family. What does that mean? I mean, it means abortion is an ugly, ugly murder. And it should not be funded by any public money, certainly. And then we should start working the adoption options for folks. Pro-family means, I think parents should have the right to decide when their kids are vaccinated and at what rate. I'm pro-energy. I told you about my fracking time. I'm pro-constitution. No red flag laws. Let's work this. Let's get those out of the system. I'm pro-Tabor. This government is after Tabor taxpayer bill of rights every opportunity they get, and we need to make sure that they can't hook safety clauses or leave the sunset law off of the books. I'm honored to stand in front of you. I truly am, and I ask for your vote. I want to close
one means something to me. I found it in my briefcase here. And it is simply, I will never forget that I am an American, fighting for freedom, responsible for my actions, and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America. And ladies and gentlemen, to quote Martin Luther, here I stand, and I can do no other. My contact information is out on the table. You can find it at thanksforcolorado.com. My phone number's on there. Call me. You guys know more about some things than I do. I'd love to hear your opinion and your expertise. So Ron Hanks for HD60, thank you so much for your Saturday.
Thank you all for being here. Again, my name is Kevin Grant. I'm running for County Commissioner District 1. The thing I probably want to have you take home with you about me, the thing to think about is what guides that person's decision-making process. What makes them who they are? What will they use to define their decisions as they cast their votes, as they ask their questions? Well, I want to tell you what guided me for 8 years up in Denver. I want to tell you what has guided me, the principles that I live by, that I make decisions by, not just in that life, but in everyday life. The decisions that you make and the principles that guide you. I still believe, and I will continue to believe, in a strict adherence to the Constitution, the Colorado Constitution and the United States Constitution. I believe that the civil role of government is limited. I believe that the protection of individual and property rights are paramount, I should say, to the role of county commissioner and anybody that is in elected office. I still believe in the liberty of the individual. I still believe in personal responsibility. I still believe in limited government. Free markets, commerce. I believe that those are things that we can work on here on the local level to improve our situation, to bring back in manufacturing jobs, to bring back in jobs in this county and in all of rural Colorado. Lower taxes, better use of your taxes, fiscal restraint. I still believe in the sanctity of life. Some would say that that doesn't matter here on the local level. I would disagree. That's a matter of principle, and I believe in the sanctity of life, and that is one of the things that governs my ethics and my decision-making process. Education, we hear that talked about. Everything I can do on this level to encourage those at the state level, some of those that might be elected here behind you. Those are ones I would fight for and encourage to support choice in education. That's an advocate position that I want to take as a county commissioner, not just on the county level, but all those things that would attack us on a county level, that would bring those unfunded mandates. Those are the things I want to go up and fight against and fight for the taxpayer of Fremont County. Folks, those are my guiding principles. Those are the things that I want you to take home from today, to know what I believe, and that I will fight for you as the taxpayers and citizens of Fremont County.
Well, like everybody else up here, I want to thank you guys for giving up your Saturday. It's a beautiful day out there. It's going to be snowing cold tomorrow, so thanks for being here. And I guess what you need to know about me, I'm a God-fearing, gun-loving, life member of the NRA. I'm a conservative. I believe in God, country, and family. I'm a country boy who believes in the rural way of life. I've always been that way. I hate even to drive to the big cities. So I'm going to continue to work for what's right for us in rural Colorado. As a commissioner, I want to continue to work on state and federal issues through CCI, which is a legislative group that we have here in the state that works for us on bills, and then NACO, which is the National Association of Counties on Federal Issues. I serve on an agricultural committee through NACO. to have the guy that's in control of most of our public lands living in the public lands. But they do affect us greatly. About 54% of our property in Fremont County is public land. So it's good to have a say on those national levels and state levels with conversations like that. I want to continue we're trying to build out Pathfinder Park. We're working on trying to get money to build out Pathfinder Park. We're with the Fremont County Fair. It's going to make a bigger, better event. We're going to do that without raising taxes. We're going to do it with donations and grants. I continue to work with CDOT. Some of the roads through Fremont County, especially 8 Mile going up towards the west, 115 between Canyon and Florence, they're dangerous. And they're dangerous because of CDOT. So I've been working with them for about 2.5 years, and we're going to continue to work with them, trying to get them safer. They put in the grants to split the road up 8 Mile to separate that. The coroner can tell you we've had some terrible accidents up there, and some of them fatal. It's tragic. That also happens on 115. So I get a voice into that, into the state. As well as that, I sit on a committee with CDOT, so it's a pretty heavy voice, I think, and I want to continue to fight for Fremont County. I just want to God bless every one of you for being here, and God bless America. Thank you.
Well, thank you for spending your Saturday with us. It's been a good day for all of us, I believe. I've spent my adult life as a servant leader, helping others have the tools and resources they need to perform the job that is at hand. It's my pledge to you to carry your voice forward as this government shapes our future. With your support, we're going to build a better place for our kids and our grandkids right here. We're going to continue a healthy relationship with the city council. That's something that's already been started. We're going to foster that. Keep that moving forward. Because at the end of the day, it's about Fremont County, whether it's Canyon City, Florence, Penrose, or the county. It's about the success of the county as a whole. As your candidate for District 1, we can help make this possible. Thank you for your day. Enjoy it, and God bless you.
Well, thank you all for sharing your opportunity. More importantly, everyone in here knows the significance of what 2020 is about, or you would still be sitting here listening. So I want to thank you for that. I hope you will be able to look up the candidates after the forum, hook up with them. You've heard their voice, you've heard their heart. They're here, they're ready to stand up and fight for that walk that they want to make in the upcoming primary and ultimately to hold the office for which they're running. No greater sacrifice, I think, can ever be given, except by the military and by the men and women behind it. I want to thank them again for that sacrifice, for that passion, and for being able to do the right thing, keep their promises, walk the higher road, and always remember that the people come before the office that they have. With no further ado, I would like to let you know that sometimes you close right and you think you've got everything together. And I have for Dan some certificates that really do have frames, but the frames are sitting on my dining room table. So I would like to have you come up and receive certificates of thank you, appreciation, and our humble, just humble heart for what you've given to us. Thank you. we go again. I couldn't have gotten through today without Dan. If you'd only seen us yesterday, over and over, and the patience of Joe with me. So I really want to thank you for that patience. If you need an expert on computers, Macs, Windows, how to do this, this is the man. So Dan, with great appreciation and thanks to you. We have certificates for Sharon, Kay, John, and Greg slipped out before I could give him this. Ray Linebaugh, are you there? Did he slip out? Great, thank you. Thank you for your service. We couldn't have gotten through today without you. Ray, would you like your certificate? Oh, yeah. Here, now you can slip. Thank you.